It's 1933, and America is in the grip of the worst economic downturn in history. Banks are closing, jobs are disappearing, and bread lines stretch for blocks in every major city. Families are losing everything they've worked for, and the American dream is turning into a nightmare. But amidst the despair, there's a story of resilience, ingenuity, and the will to survive. This is the story of the Great Depression, and how ordinary people faced extraordinary challenges to keep going. The Great Depression officially began with the stock market crash of October 1929, known as Black Tuesday, but the seeds of the collapse were sown long before. The 1920s had been a decade of prosperity, fueled by speculation, easy credit, and a booming stock market. When the bubble burst, it triggered a chain reaction that led to the collapse of banks, businesses, and entire industries. For many, the first sign of trouble came when their bank suddenly closed its doors. With no federal insurance for deposits, people lost their life savings in an instant. As businesses failed, unemployment soared, reaching a staggering 25% by 1933. Those who still had jobs often saw their wages slashed, leaving them struggling to make ends meet. The economic collapse led to widespread poverty and homelessness. In cities, people formed Hoovervilles, shantytowns named sarcastically after President Herbert Hoover, whom many blamed for the crisis. These makeshift communities, built from scrap wood, metal, and cardboard, dotted the outskirts of cities across the country. Life in a Hooverville was harsh. There was little sanitation, no running water, and disease spread quickly. In rural areas, farmers faced their own set of challenges. Falling crop prices meant they could no longer afford to pay their mortgages, leading to widespread foreclosures. Many were forced off their land, joining the ranks of the Okies, migrants who packed up and headed west in search of work. But for every job, there were hundreds of applicants, leading to fierce competition and often meager wages. Survival during the Great Depression required creativity and resourcefulness. Families learned to stretch every dollar and make do with what they had. Gardens became vital sources of food, with even urban dwellers turning any available patch of land into a vegetable plot. Women mended clothes until they were more patch than fabric, and children grew up with hand-me-downs that had already seen years of wear. Bartering became a common way to get by, with people trading goods and services when money was scarce. A farmer might trade eggs for a haircut, or a mechanic might fix a neighbor's car in exchange for fresh produce. In many communities, people came together to share what little they had, organizing communal meals or pooling resources to help those in the most need. One of the most iconic images of the Great Depression is the breadline, a stark reminder of the widespread hunger and desperation of the era. Cities set up public breadlines and soup kitchens to help feed the growing number of unemployed. Charitable organizations like the Salvation Army and local churches stepped in to provide meals, often serving hundreds of people a day. For many, these meals were the only thing standing between them and starvation. But the stigma of accepting charity weighed heavily on people's pride. Many who lined up for food did so with a heavy heart, feeling a deep sense of shame for their situation. Yet, the need for survival outweighed these feelings, and the breadlines became a lifeline for countless families. Amidst the physical hardships, the psychological burden was immense. The relentless struggle to provide for loved ones, coupled with the pervasive sense of hopelessness, led to a significant increase in suicide rates during the Great Depression. Families faced not only the loss of their homes and livelihoods, but also the devastating impact on their mental well-being. In 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt was inaugurated as president, promising a new deal for the American people. His administration launched a series of programs aimed at providing relief, recovery, and reform. The Civilian Conservation Corps put young men to work in national parks, building trails and planting trees. The Works Progress Administration created jobs for millions, from construction projects to public art. These programs didn't end the Depression, but they provided much-needed relief and restored a sense of hope. For many, the New Deal was a lifeline, offering not just financial support, but the dignity of work and the belief that things could get better. While the New Deal laid the foundation for recovery, it was World War II that ultimately pulled the United States out of the Great Depression. The onset of the war in 1939 and the U.S. entry into the conflict in 1941 led to a massive economic mobilization. Factories that had been idle or underutilized during the Depression were suddenly humming with activity, producing everything from tanks to uniforms. The demand for war materials created millions of jobs, and unemployment plummeted as men were drafted into the military, and women took their places in the workforce. Government spending on the war effort injected vast amounts of money into the economy, spurring growth and innovation. The war effort not only ended the widespread unemployment of the Depression, but also set the stage for the post-war economic boom. By the time the war ended, in 1945, the U.S. economy had been transformed. The Great Depression was finally over, and the country emerged from the war as a global economic powerhouse, with a newfound sense of optimism and opportunity. Join us next time as we explore how America's entry into World War II changed everything, pulling the country out of the Depression, but plunging it into global conflict.